We were definitely just having that conversation of like, wouldn't it be interesting we're just talking about something really dumb, really silly, and then they suddenly turn the mics on us? And it totally happened.
It was not sad. It was not sad.
I wonder if all these people are listening. Is that why they're here? Yes. Yes? That's great. I wonder if someone here doesn't know what an escape room is.
Thanks for being patient. We're doing some very complicated mathematics.
No, I appreciate your enthusiasm. We're just going to chat. Yeah.
Does anyone here like solving puzzles and like helping them out?
I don't know why you're thinking about this room about solving puzzles.
Look, dang it, I told you no puzzles in this panel. We don't have time. I've got a lot of questions. And they had puzzles, but I've cut the puzzles, alright? A shout out to the enforcers who are doing an amazing job. Yeah! And I also want to shout out the tech team in the back there who fixed all my tech problems. Thank you, tech team. So now I feel like I wrote this long script and we're now 10 minutes late, and it's like you've arrived 10 minutes late for the escape room and they're telling you, well, you're just all fast. Yeah, okay, thumbs up. Welcome everyone. I'm Lee-Fay Low and I'm your self-appointed game master for this panel on escape rooms. We have 4 brilliant panel members. I've written about 500 questions that I'm burning to ask, and we have 51 minutes to get out of the Gala Theatre in time. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands in which we meet. This convention centre is built on the banks of the Birrarong, and I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of Nam, the Boon Wurrung and Wurundjeri Woi Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'd like to particularly welcome any First Nations people here today, and of course, all of you, because without you, we'd just be talking to ourselves. Really sad. So, I take it that people like escape rooms here at PAX. Put your hand up if you played an escape room. Oh, so many hands. Put up your hand if you're in the industry, you're an owner, or a game master. Oh, we've got a few of you. Wonderful. Put your hand up if you don't know an escape room list, but everyone was in the queue. Wonderful. So much more. Thank you for coming. Okay, so I'm an escape room enthusiast, which means I spend too much time and too much money on escape rooms. I've played about 160-ish in about 4 countries. Don't tell my husband. Yes. And I've been really looking forward to being able to ask this wonderful panel all my questions. And I have so many questions. So, Maurice Watson from the Cipher Room in Sydney. Maurice is co-owner and puzzle designer of the Cipher Room based in Newtown in Sydney. Us local enthusiasts think it's one of the best companies in Sydney, and they're particularly known for their high quality sets and wow moments. And if you haven't played her room, when you play her last few rooms, you'll be like, wow. I can't spoil it, it's worth playing. So Maurice was once her journalist, and her partner David is a working exotics veterinarian. So how did you go from that to starting an escape room business?
That's a logical conclusion.
No, we played our first escape room about 7 years ago. It was the Enigma Room in Sydney, and just fell in love with them. And that night, David and I just kind of jokingly just started sort of going, oh, what puzzles would we do? We like building stuff, you know, we could do this theme and blah, blah, blah. And then I think over the next year, it just kind of became more and more real, where we realised, oh, actually, we really do want to do this. And the skills that we both have, we thought would sort of be a good sort of fit for the industry. And yeah, so it just kind of sort of happened.
You just accidentally. So you started your business in 2016, quite early, I guess, in the escape room phase. This is quite young industry. How have your room designs and audience expectations changed over those years?
I think we do feel a certain pressure every time we do a new game to really up the set design and, you know, the surprises in the game. So I think that's certainly changed. I think people's expectations are not just, you know, going into a room with a table with some paper on it or something. They actually sort of expect more now. So yeah, we definitely try and do that.
So you can't just laminate bits of paper and buy some stuff from IKEA? I'll just keep my day job there. Next up, I'd like to introduce Leanne Yong from Next Level Escape. Leanne is co-owner and a story and game designer at Next Level in the Sydney CBD. Next Level are known for their unconventional themes, humour, and really fun interactions with game masters. I think I have a lot of fun playing with your game masters when we go. Don't even solve any puzzles. Now, Leanne started off as an IT consultant and is a published author. Very exciting, Leanne. Leanne, you weren't part of the original team that set up Next Level. So how did you kind of invigilate your way into that business?
Well, so a friend and I started reviewing escape rooms like, it would have been 8-9 years back, I think, after we had a random 2 or 3 day stopover in Helsinki, and we're just like, you know what, let's play all these escape rooms we can. Started reviewing them, and these 2 guys basically emailed them and were just like, hey, we've got a new one getting set up in Sydney, do you want to come? And we went along. I just happened to have resigned from my job at that point. Didn't know what I was doing at that time, and got talking. They just set up this really cool 15-minute room, and we're in the process of building out one other. And so yeah, I came along, got talking. We got along really well, and now it's yeah.
So you also accidentally started this business?
Yes, it was not planned, but it worked out really well, and luckily, you know, still around with Aaron, who's just right there. And here we are today.
Yeah, and tell me, how has your writing influenced your games?
So with writing, when I write, a lot of the time it comes down to what is the end goal, what is the end of the story, the character arc, the objective. And I find that with games, it's very similar in that sense, because you want to, we want to try and tell a story with our games, or at least give you a reason for being there, as opposed to you're just here to solve one puzzle after another and that's it, in, you know, vaguely themed puzzle. And so that really helps when it comes to, okay, what is the objective? And what are the steps that we're going to take to get there? What is Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and using that kind of structure for how the games play out.
Thanks, Leanne. Next up, we have Damien Bowden from Project Immersive. Damien is co-owner of Project Immersive, based in Brisbane, and the company name says it all. Project Immersive is known for story, world building, and immersion. It only opened at the end of last year, so congratulations, Damien. Their first show is Area 1 escape rooms, but they're going to be branching out into other forms of immersive entertainment. Now, Damien is somewhat of a Renaissance man. He has a background in the military, psychology, and marketing, but then he wasn't having any fun. So searching for fun, first he joined Strike and Fun Lab, and then he struck out on his own. So Damien, did you also accidentally open an escape room, or what happened? How did you get into this venture?
Yeah, look, it's gonna be a theme. So yes, I did accidentally get into it. So yeah, as you said, I did have quite a few sort of different odd little backgrounds that I was working in. Was in the military, was studying psychology and business. I had my own small business at that point, and I was starting out in internet marketing and social media back in the day. Back before Instagram was taken over by Facebook, so back in the day. But I wasn't enjoying it so much. So it was doing well, but I wasn't having heaps of fun doing it. So I was like, you know what, stuff it. I'm gonna find a fun job, and then I was just sort of throwing some resumes and things around, no, this looks interesting. I went along to, as you said, Strike and Fun Lab, and this looks fun. And then they mentioned during my interview that they were looking to open escape rooms. So this was yonks ago, back when they were still fairly new in Australia. And they mentioned that, that sounds brilliant. you're going to hire me and they're going to be great. So yeah, so they hired me and it was a lot of fun. It was really, really excellent. And yeah, stuck around doing escape room stuff quite a lot. And then unfortunately, the Rona happened. And then, yeah, so a bunch of people didn't really want to be locked in rooms. Yeah, so after the end of Rona, yeah, a group of us who, yeah, Project Immersive all sort of got together and we'd all been mucked around a bit by the Rona. And we're like, let's come together, let's do something really fun. Let's just give it a go and have something that we can be silly and build dumb stuff with. So, yeah, so yes, we fell into it accidentally again. So.
Now, I believe that your game is in an all-paint factory in the artist space. So tell us about how this affected your design and your business.
Yeah, so we are based in a place called the Paint Factory up in Brisbane, and it is actually an old abandoned paint factory. So it was abandoned for about 10 years. So the developers there who are looking to build something really, really cool, they want to build it into something more interesting than just apartments. So at the moment they're using most of the paint factory as artist spaces, which is really awesome. There's some really high quality, really top-end awesome artists there. And we came in as a bit of an art project. We weren't sure what exactly we were going to do, but as we were wandering through this factory, we went through like 9 o'clock at night. It was dark, it was spooky, not many of the lights were working. We found this creepy as heck laboratory, the old lab area within the paint factory, and we're like, this is brilliant, we have to do something with it. We have no idea what the hell we're going to do with it, but we're going to do something. So, and then it all just sort of went from there. So we played a bit more of fill in the blanks, because we had this laboratory area. It already felt like an old creepy laboratory, and like we're going to stick with that theme. We're going to make an old creepy laboratory and fill in all the blanks, and yeah.
I'm looking forward to coming up to Brisbane and playing your game.
We're very excited to host you.
I'm so excited. I'm excited about lots of things, gang. So lastly, Charlie Kemenick from the Curium Experience. You might have some flyers from the Curium Experience, because this Curium is the hottest new game in town, is what we're hearing. I'm excited to play it this weekend. Curium has just opened, but already local enthusiasts have been recommending this room because apparently it does all the things. I don't know what all the things means, but apparently it does all the things. So looking at Charlie, you wouldn't have picked it, but he started his working life as an opera singer. He moved to Germany to sing, but then I guess accidentally discovered escape rooms, and he had a career change, and he spent 5 years working at the Room in Berlin, which is one of the best escape room companies in the world. So Charlie, how did you end up coming back to Melbourne and co-creating the Curium Experience?
Yeah, so when my family and I decided it was time, after 10 years living abroad, to come back and spend some more time with our family, I came back and spoke with a bunch of different owners, played a bunch of different games, and eventually met Rowan, who's standing up the back there, who was one of the founders of Cubescape, who had been, like Damien, also building rooms for Strike. And yeah, we had many different chats over many different beers about what could we do together, and yeah, kind of set about creating a timeline, which then got thrown to the wind because of COVID. But yeah, we both had very similar ideas about what was possible and what we could kind of do and push the genre forward a little.
So what has been the hardest part about building and opening your room?
Council approvals and all of that kind of stuff is the boring part. Yeah, so building surveyors who don't understand what an escape room is. We had a building inspection where the guy wanders through saying, I've never played an escape room, and then proceeds to ask whether we're storing dangerous chemicals in the lab. And at that point it's like, oh no. Thankfully that all got sorted, and they sent someone who actually knew what they were doing. But yeah, that's probably the most difficult thing.
Yeah, but you're through it now.
Yeah.
Approvals. So now we're going to peek a little bit further through the escape room doors, and I'd like to thank the panel for dropping into our slide deck all these lovely images from their games. So, when you design a room, what's your process? Leanne?
So generally, Aaron and I will start throwing around ideas, just being like, because I guess the themes, we like to play with slightly more unconventional themes, but then there's a balance where they have to be mass appealing enough as well, because even though, I don't know how many of you have played a lot of escape rooms. If you played a lot, I think a lot of people might be like, oh, not another prison escape one, but that's still very mass appealing, surprisingly enough. And it's just finding that line, and then it's also then, okay, what can we do with this? How do the puzzles work? How can we build them in a way also within, our capabilities, our budget? How can we make them uniquely next level in the sense of, we use a lot of GM interaction. Basically, the things that make our company different from others in our own way, whether like humor, interactions, and how can we bake that in? And then finally, what are you doing there? How are we going to make the puzzles work in the sense of, here is the objective, and here is how it all strings together so that it makes like story sense. Because we're both very, very, we want it to make sense, otherwise it's just like a string of puzzles that you can throw together. And then from there, it'll just be, okay, how do we throw in the tech? How do we use the tech in a way that also just feels natural, is integrated with the room, ideally hidden well enough, if need be, and where everything makes sense, I guess. Yeah.
Thanks, Leanne. How about you, Ruth? What's your process?
Well, we always start with a theme first, and then just lots of research, I guess, in terms of timeline, things that might be in that space. Like, we have a black and white film game, and so I did a lot of research on film noir, what are the tropes, things like that, and what would make sense in that space, I guess, as a puzzle and a storyline. That's basically it. We actually had for our latest 2 games, they're in a new location, and we have a warehouse, and so we've been sort of trying to play more with theatrics and things like that. So we actually did a different thing with those 2 games where we started from the end of the game and worked to the start.
Because remember, wow!
We just sort of found that we just had to do it that way because we had some surprising endings, and that was a big build. So that was a different way of approaching it, I suppose. We still had everything worked out, and we were still working on everything else, but we actually started at the end.
Interesting. So when you've got the idea of the design, how do you actually build it, Charlie?
A lot of hard work. We have some great we've got a CNC machine that we can.
Oh, Emma, what's a CNC machine?
Shove it down the line.
So flatbed router that we can cut various.
Well, what's a router?
Oh God!
I know what a router is.
Yeah. So we can create anything from sort of signage to wood paneling. All of our props we make ourselves, and can kind of do quite fine work, or also larger stuff. We've got a team of 4, and that we
4 people.
Yeah.
To build your escape room.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of people.
More people than some have. But we have a designer and then a tech guy, and then Rowan and I. Rowan's mostly in charge of all of the kind of detailed design of the puzzles and mechs and all that kind of stuff.
I'm just going to write some notes. Must have bigger team.
Yeah, I mean, it is handy to have lots of skills covered off.
Must learn what CC thing is. Damien, how about you? What's your process for building?
Our process for building, you can describe it as fucking chaotic. Ex-military, I get enthusiastically sweary. I'll try and rein it in. It's nuts. So you get all your ideas together, and then you've got to try and actually build the things. So my best sort of description for it is, if you do like solving puzzles and you like escape rooms and things, is try building an escape room, because the puzzles that come with actually building everything and making it all work and making it all fit together is just it's a whole new thing. So the way that we sort of build our ones, because we've got a team of 4 as well, all have quite a wide variety of skills. One of our team members works a lot with films, movies, films, TV shows, doing prop building. So, for example, they're off with Disney building a giant submarine for Nautilus at the moment, so off doing some cool stuff. So we actually yoinked a lot of our props from a movie called The Portable Door that's coming up sometime soon. So it had like a similar sort of theme of like other dimensions and sciencey laboratories and things like that. So so we had a bit of an in, and a lot of how we built and cobbled together and got all of our props was we did have a bit of an in with a variety of different places. So we movies, Woodford Folk Festival up in Brisbane, if anyone knows it. There was quite a few of our friends within the industry who got hammered by COVID again, and we sort of jumped in and look guys, can we just take some of these props from you? Can we pay you for it? Can we grab this? Can we grab that? Because there was a bunch of people who just weren't using it, unfortunately, and they were very kind, very happy to sort of see them go to good use. So a lot of our stuff is repurposed, interesting things that we get it and we're like, I don't know what that is, but we're going to put a puzzle on it. So that's it's quite chaotic building for us, but it comes out very fun and very amazing and very satisfying, because as you can see behind me there, we do have some very satisfying, fun, chunky things to play with. So you throw a puzzle into it and it's just really fun and satisfying, and things click satisfyingly, turn and crank satisfyingly. So ours is smooshing puzzles into things that are already there. So
Does sound like fun. Well, people sometimes say to me, I don't think I'm smart enough to play an escape room, and that way, the way that escape room, hang on, why is everyone, what's going on? Well done, well played. I told you guys not to put these puzzles in because we don't have time for this. This crowd is fast. Thank you to Maurice, who has, I think, given you a gift voucher to play one of her WoW games. So come to Sydney and play. That's a nice surprise. I hope there's no more puzzles in this deck because I've got a lot of questions.
Of course not.
this is very serious.
Now, I don't know what I was saying before. Now, what was my question? How do you feel about time as in escape rooms and people wanting to feel smart? Maurice?
We don't really sort of emphasize, times or breaking records or things like that, because we want people to enjoy it and take the hour to sort of, be immersed. So we do have a timer on each wall, just because some people do want to know, but it's just a clock, so it's not, so hopefully it fits the theme of the room it's in. But we don't really sort of try and focus too much on breaking records and things like that, because we want people to get through the whole game.
Does anyone have a record-focused game here? No, okay, no one else. I'm not going to argue, then there's no point. Charlie, what do you think delights players most in your game?
The scale.
Don't spoiler it for now, players.
Without wanting to give too much away, there's quite a bit of sort of theatrical elements, sound and lighting. There's quite a bit of movement through space, and I think one of the things we try and do is have a sort of living worlds that the players inhabit. So things are happening. Some of the things you can influence and kind of come back to bear as sort of Easter eggs and things. Other things are happening without your control because they're happening, because it's the world. We try as much as possible to have a sort of living, breathing world around that the game sits in.
Wonderful, I'm looking forward to it. Leanne, what do you think delights players most in your games?
Well, we do heavily emphasize the interactions with your games master. So it's not like actor in the room. We give you the space, but every game has, the GM is a character in the room, and with every game, we've tried to push the envelope with the various ways that you can interact with the GM or how you're expected to as part of the game. And I think it leads to some really nice moments, especially because we've got some pretty awesome GMs. Josh. And we've also got, yeah, they know how to bounce off the players. Like, if you're talking about random stuff in the room, expect to be interacted with in character. People tend to quite enjoy that. And also, like, you know, there's some techie surprises in there where stuff happens, you're like, why? Or like the humor, and you're just like, oh, ah.
A range of people come to escape rooms, from corporate teams to Bucks nights to, oh, they're all staring at screens.
Hey, this again.
Whose fault is this? This is Damien's fault. Yeah. I think you get to go and play Damien's game. Up in Brisbane. The rest of you still solving? Let's give them a minute.
I made memory. People like this. Yes.
To be fair, it wasn't really loud.
Yeah.
It was quite a change.
Yeah, it was like a pointing, let's more. Okay, before people go, oh, are you good? I'll just ask a question, you keep solving. Okay. So, Damien, this is a hard question because you have corporate teams, Bucks nights, newbie couples, my favorite, 8-year-old birthday parties, they all come to your games. So how do you give them all a good experience in the same room?
This one, I would say, just comes down to practice. So very much practice. So being a good game master, being a good customer service expert, all that sort of stuff just takes an amount of practice to do. There's no easy solution for anything. So how you would treat an 8-year-old birthday party compared to how you would treat a
Is it that time already?
scenes of things. So how you would treat an 8-year-old birthday to how you would treat a Bucks party or a Hens night is just very, very different. It's all about reading the room. If you do have a bit of sort of natural charisma and peoplemanship and showmanship, it definitely helps. But probably my number one tip for anything of like that is would be trying to gauge comfort, I would say. It's trying to make people feel comfortable and feel safe within whatever space they're going into. And in escape rooms, can be leaning into the spooky element of like, oh, we're going to be locking you in a room. Trying to make people comfortable within that space, and then once they are comfortable and they are feeling happy to be locked in a room or to solve puzzles, be put under stressful situations with timers, you're then sort of trying to just sort of gently push the boundaries to try and bring them just out of that comfort zone so that they are sort of prepared to go into that sort of stressful situation, but with a really, really fun, interesting attitude. So practice and comfort. So if you, for example, like I think all of us do have really story-focused, can be an intense experience at different points. If you are having anyone who is suddenly feeling uncomfortable with that, you do need to just sort of definitely bring it back and just sort of make them feel as comfortable as, because you still want them to play the game and you still want them to enjoy themselves. And there may be points where you may have to sacrifice a small part of your experience just to make them comfortable. So one of my best examples is if we've got quite loud music, loud sounds, lighting, all that sort of stuff as well. At one point in our game, because it is set in a creepy laboratory, we do have protective equipment for all the scientists, which does include things like earmuffs for anybody who feel they would be more comfortable in a loud space with earmuffs and things like that. So it is making that available. So.
Thanks, Damien. How about you, Maurice? How do you cater for all those different groups?
I think yeah, I think what Damien said made a lot of sense, like to sort of read the groups. Yeah, for us, yeah, I think that just sort of I can't better that answer.
No. Must book 8-year-old into game embrace. So, so this is your dog, isn't it, Charlie? What do game masters
His shop dog.
watching the players in your rooms really talk about?
You know what, we're on the side of the players. I like to think of us as almost one of the team, a kind of fifth or sixth or seventh member of the team. And most of the time we're talking about how well they're doing, or do they need a little bit of help there, or yeah, I try and always be aware of what they need, what they've missed, and try and clue as subtly as possible, but just sort of bringing their attention to maybe something that they've already said a few times, just kind of giving them a little nudge in the right direction to make sure that they're sort of constantly moving
So you're not
and happy.
just laughing?
We're not laughing. I mean, we do have a couple of funny kind of moments that
Do you
are
want to
quite
share
humorous.
one funny moment?
I can't.
Try to get it to
You'll have to play it and then you will know.
Oh.
Spoilers.
Yeah. So we're in that moment we're laughing with the players rather than at them.
Okay. Leanne, what do your game masters talk about?
I might get some weird looks if I'm way off base, but so it's a lot of, yeah, like Charlie said, we are rooting for the players. Like there is a lot of like, especially like when I'm running games to show, it's just like, come on, you're so like, no, don't play, things like that. And then there's also a lot of things like, for example, we've got, you know, like identical rooms where sometimes you've got two teams going head to head, and there'll be a lot of back and forth about where's your team at, when you push mine, how do we keep them like in parity, just so that, you know, you don't want one team to get out like a 30 minutes because they smashed it and the other to go overtime or anything like that. But then there's also just random stuff like, you know, we have an art wall that's going on now in our staff room. There's also, I mean, our staff make fun of us when we happen to be around as well. So that's the thing that they talk about. But no, a lot of it is just, you know, where are the players at? And sometimes because a lot of the interactions are unscripted based on what players are doing, and some staff members have really awesome lines, and you'll hear like, oh, I really like that one, and then you'll kind of start to see it spread around for like all future games, things like that.
Nice. Arthur C. Clarke said that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, and sometimes when you play a room, they use the technology to make us players feel magic. How do you think about the use of technology in your games? Damien?
I'm going to hand this one over to my very awkward tech in the audience. I'm not actually, I'm sorry. I'm not the tech guy. I'm not the tech guy at our business. As far as I'm concerned, our lovely tech person, whatever he does is magic, and I do say that. It's like whatever he does, it's magic. And so the way we sort of work with it is in our team we've got two people that have worked with escape rooms quite a lot. We've been in the industry quite a while, and then the other two have not. They're very new to the industry. This is their first rodeo. So one of them, the one who works with all the movies, is quite creative, very big ideas, very dumb ideas. And the other one is a writer, and like sci-fi writer, world builder, all that sort of stuff. So sort of the creative process that we've done is that those two have come up with all the ideas to make our game happen, and then the other two of us, we've tried to make that all happen. So that's sort of how it worked. And often with all of our tech things, we do have a big, dumb, creative idea that comes up, and then we just sort of go like, can this happen? Can we make this happen somehow? Can this work? And it's all for a reason, I would say. Having tech in a game for the sake of having tech, for like having a door that pops open for no reason or something, is a bit naff. we do want everything to have a reason and in the story, and you want it to feel satisfying, you want it to feel good. So we do have a bit of a mix of high-tech, low-tech within our game, but everything fits into story-wise. So for example, in our laboratory, we do have a mix of high-tech security issues, and then we have some low-tech security backups for when the high-tech one goes nuts. And that's all within world, it's all written, it's all talked about within game, things like that. So for our tech things, yeah, we do want to make them relevant for the game, relevant for the story, and suitably robust as well for players to be able to play with and muck around with. So, yeah.
Maurice, your games are historically set, so how do you deal with tech in those games? Doesn't make sense to have a big button for me to press in your game.
Yes, exactly. So we tend to hide our tech. So, for example, if we want something to open, we just hide all of the text so it just magically appears, I suppose. But that's really important not to, because we do have a lot of, our games are mostly vintage sort of inspired. So it wouldn't make sense to have like a screen on the wall or something. So yeah, we do definitely hide our tech.
I guess Damien already alluded to this, but one of the challenges with using technology is that it can, oh, here we go again.
Got you, buddy.
I'm going to apologize to this person because your voucher was nicely printed and everything, except it is now seated in our hotel room. So you get the voucher, but hacked together for.
Which becomes a famous author to sell that picture. So yeah, how do you safeguard against breakage? Leanne, I guess.
Well, if there's one thing we've learned, have a lot of spares. Always. Even the things you think that are going to be super duper robust that you have put in fail-safes for, I almost guarantee you, people will find a way to break. So, have spares and don't assume that just because I have 10 spares, I'll be able to, like, if I run out, I'll be able to buy more, like a few years on, because odds are you probably won't, and you will need to then rework parts of your puzzle accordingly. I think as well, it's just also thinking, okay, when you're testing it, what can people do? How hard can they smash this thing? How hard can they smash this button? And, accounting for that, testing that. Don't assume that people are going to play it the way you think they will play it. Just think about, if I was drunk, I've had 10 drinks, and I am in a really, really I'm going to go mess things up mood, what could I do to this? And play off that.
I know that Maurice did message the group the other day and say she couldn't come because someone had kicked a door in, Maurice?
Yes, yes they had.
So you really need to...
And we build everything really strong, like David, my partner. We've done 5 games now, and we build everything really robustly. But this person you don't expect someone to kick a door. But yeah, so we fixed it quite quickly, but it was not great.
Charlie, is anything broken since you opened?
Not yet, but we've only been operating 3 weeks. But all of our props go through a very rigorous kind of testing process, which involves Rowan throwing them at the concrete wall. And if they survive that,
Really?
Yeah. It's like, this looks good. Oh, didn't survive.
Okay.
But on that, also, the game master's job is also partly to protect the game from the players. So usually you can tell if a group is handsy,
Enthusiastic.
and then to watch them more, and if you need to, you have to just sort of say, guys, stop, it's going too far. If it keeps going, then we're going to have to stop the game. And that's an unfortunate fact of it, but yeah, it's partly the game master's role to be aware of that and also minimize frustration in the game. players tend to, when they've run out of good ideas, think of destructive ideas. So if you can keep them on a positive kind of path by well-timed clues, often that stuff doesn't happen.
That makes sense. So I wonder if, oh, here we go.
Or who was first?
I think it was the lovely lady right up the back.
We don't know who it was.
I'm pretty sure.
It's like the fourth row.
Fourth row?
Right? Yeah.
We were convinced more people were going to be tricked by that.
I don't know if there's any bookings open this weekend, but you get a voucher to play Charlie's game that does everything. Alright, so does anyone have a question for the panel? Put your hand up and wave it around. There you go, and the enforcers are going to bring you a microphone. The microphone is broken. You could just shout and I can repeat your question. No, we're going to microphone number 2. Oh, we're going to try again. Oh, that one works. Hooray, thank you, tech people.
From your draft version of your puzzles, which aspect survives most intact into the final version? The narrative aspect or the practical aspect?
When you say puzzles, do you mean escape room as a whole or individual puzzles?
Both.
I think for us, definitely it's, for us at least, because we start from the narrative aspect tends to stay a lot more fixed, and then we work the puzzles around, like, did that convey what we wanted it to convey, like did the puzzle convey the feeling or convey the kind of sense that we wanted it to, and then, you know, also then the stance, like, was it snappy enough, do people get this, does it need to be easier, more obvious? You generally never have to make a puzzle harder, by the way. I don't know that.
No.
Anyone else have anything to add to that? Nope.
Our puzzle design goes through quite a iterative process. So by the time we've actually constructed it in the room, it's been slashed out with a red pen a million times till it's kind of exists in a form that we're pretty confident will work. That's not to say things don't get tweaked over time, but yeah.
Sorry, ready?
Yeah, go.
With the current mass media depicting escape rooms as death rooms, has this been like beneficial or a detriment to the actual?
Rose, want to take it?
I think when we first opened, people didn't know what an escape room was, and we opened our businesses around the same time. And so you had the council not knowing what was going on and thinking that you were really locking people in a room. Occasionally we get some people who are really scared and think that they're going to be locked in or that they're going to be somehow abducted or something. But no, not so much. I think people now, it's well known enough.
Except for that one guy who came to do the fire inspection.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know where he's been hiding.
Gentleman with a very cool hat.
Hi, do any of you have rooms that have multiple solutions or at least multiple pathways that tie back together?
Yeah, we definitely do. There are a number of kind of endings, and also with our tech, we've created a game that every group will have the same sort of narrative journey through the game, but with some changes depending on decisions they make. So yeah, there are a number of different endings, and also some kind of little surprises along the way depending on what things are enabled.
Yeah, our game, so our first game only has like one small part that can sort of happen differently, but the next game that we are building, we're going to try and attempt to add in a few of those elements of trying to have those sort of multiple pathways and a couple of different endings. It can historically be a bit of a jerk within the industry, because if you are putting all of that work into building more puzzles and more story and things, you are putting more money, more time, more effort into things that may not be seen by everyone. If 80 to 90% of people choose the good ending, and you put an equal amount of work into the bad ending that only 10% see, it's tricky for traditionally small businesses. So.
Hi there. I think escape rooms have got a bit of a reputation for being pretty hard to get into, as well as being hard to get out of, especially for people who are wheelchair users or who have other sort of varieties of disability and impairment. How do you each try to make your escape rooms accessible?
With ours, all of our games are wheelchair accessible. We think it's really important if we're going to have any crawl space or anything that requires more mobility, that there is a workaround. So there will be a door that somebody can open and allow someone who has physical disabilities to be able to go through. We also have a game that's black and white, and we joke that colour blind people have no problem in this game whatsoever.
I think for us as well, like same with the accessibility, pretty much all our games, like I think because of code sets, we try and make them accessible, wheelchair accessible, that kind of thing, but also then finding ways, for example, hosting groups that are hard of hearing, that kind of thing, and being able to put in captioned, in-theme looking captioned stuff on top of certain puzzles that may be audio related, that kind of thing, and we found that that being able to do that is pretty important. And because we run our games one games master per game, and they're looking after that game, they can also, if necessary, be in there, with them, especially with hearing impaired. If you're doing hints, we use a voice of God system. They can actually just be in there, kind of unobtrusively with hint pads, that kind of thing, to make it as accessible to as many people as possible.
I'm going to take one more question in the interest of time. Sorry, ask us later. We'll still be here.
How much, or have you done anything that incorporates the virtual with the physical?
I can jump in on this one. This is something that we are sort of looking at. It's not something that we've done with our first game, but it is something that two members of our team are super passionate about. I've played a couple of virtual games, completely virtual games, and they're a little meh in my opinion, but I really, really like where they will be or where they are going. So some of my experience with virtual games is they are trying to be as real as possible, and they're trying to mimic real escape rooms. But some of the design space of what's happening is people building escape rooms that you realistically can't really do in real life. So things like fixing a space station in zero gravity, being underwater and, solving, escaping from a shark cage or something like that. So that's what I'm really, really quite interested in into the future. But something that we are looking at for a project sort of down the track, I'm trying to figure out how much I'm allowed to say and spoil. So there's a project that we're looking at down the track where we want to build a huge open space, kind of like this, think a factory floor warehouse kind of thing. A fairly open space, and you are in there with an interdimensional beastie creature, giant hulking bastard that you can't see, and then build the whole thing in virtual reality, and then build some goggles into a big alien style camera that somebody can carry around with that projects up onto a space. And then that allows everyone to explore the other dimension and see the other dimension, see the other creature. So it is a huge, fantastically fun idea that we are really, really keen to do, but we'll see how it goes. It's ambitious.
I was thinking more on the lines of augmented reality. I mean, because of the prevalence of mobile phones, having a story where potentially, from a historical perspective, you're a time traveller that's travelling through time, and they can use their phone as an augmentation of the data that's presented within the room. That way,
I've played a couple of games that use things like that in Europe, and never terribly well. Like I haven't. It's often also something that one person experiences, and the people that don't have the device aren't, which then you get a bit of FOMO. Yeah.
We will take one more question because we're allowed to go over time, and then I'm going to do a rapid fire round.
Okay, for the panel, if you had one theme or story that you could explore that you have not yet or are not technically capable of doing,
Question off my list.
what would it be?
The dream game question, eh?
Something underwater. I think would be amazing.
Yeah,
A sinking submarine-y kind of thing where real water comes through and it's got to stop it happening would be cool.
Yeah, the whole real water again is quite high on my list. If you could do something where somebody actually gets like scuba suit to then dive down and something to save everyone, like oh baby, that'd be fun.
Insurance would need to get a lot cheaper.
Get through the fire safety now.
Go to Russia, they have them.
All right. So I'm going to finish with a rapid fire round. We're going to start with Leanne and just work down the road. Just give me a quick answer and we'll move on. What prop gets broken most in your rooms?
We have a control panel. I'm going to say that.
We have some baseball cards in Marlow that often people drop onto the cobblestones.
We haven't had anything broken yet, but in Berlin it was a candle that had to be used.
We have a generator that the teams need to crank sort of every 5 minutes to keep all the power on. People get really vicious with it.
Okay. Padlocks in escape rooms, yes or no?
Yes, if it fits the theme. Only if it fits.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, if it fits the theme.
Would you rather host an 8-year-old birthday party or a bucks night? Quick rapid fire.
8-year-olds.
Yeah, 8-year-olds.
Bucks, but we have a really strict no being drunk policy, so it would be
Bucks party.
David's drinking with them. Your favorite ice cream flavor?
Cookies and cream.
Mango.
rum and raisin.
Pistachio.
The strangest thing someone has done in your room?
Off the top of my head, either stuck in a goon bag or gone in and fallen straight asleep.
Made out.
Brought a broom down the slide.
Laid down and cuddled for the whole hour. Yeah, I took them into the room. It was a nice, relaxing, garden-y, Alice in Wonderland kind of themed room. I checked the camera about 5 minutes later after taking another team in. They were just sort of spooning on the ground. I gave them a call and like,
Did you give them hints?
yeah, I was like, do you guys need any help? Do you need any assistance? I'm like, no, we're good. We're good. He's like, call me if you need any help.
Alright, so some quick facts. Leanne, Aaron, and Maurice are also speaking at an escape room panel, video games and escape rooms on Sunday at 4:30. Yeah, please come if you're interested in escape rooms, and you obviously are. I'd like to plug Escape This Podcast by Bill and Danny, a great Australian team. Reality Escape Pod, where they talk about escape rooms. I have some stickers if you want one. Leanne and Aaron are up this season in a few episodes, and I've been on it as well. And the Top Escape Rooms Project, if you haven't been to their website, this is where enthusiasts vote for the best rooms in the world. And so if you're traveling and going overseas and you want to know what the best rooms are, go there. And if you have played over 100 rooms, then we would love you to vote, and you can nominate to vote as well. So it's a high bar to vote for that. Thank you so much for being a fantastic audience. If you have questions. Have a great night and ask us questions. Just come up and say hi as well.